Hey guys, welcome back to my channel where I criticize a children's medieval fantasy game that's older than I am. I bet you saw the title and went, this is clickbait, I can log into RuneScape right now. By broken, I mean broken in a different way. Some of RuneScape's most popular content has been glitched from day one, and rather than fix it, it became a feature. Or in some cases has just been unusable and forgotten about. I'm gonna run you through just a couple of these, and some might actually surprise you. Our first stop, the Cave Kraken. The boss was originally introduced in April of 2014 and is one of Old School's first ever bosses. The boss itself isn't very challenging. In fact, it does almost no damage. With the right gear, you could honestly do an entire trip without needing any food. But why has Jagex never made this boss more interesting, despite it being universally known as a boring boss? Well, it's because it's broken and nobody wants to fix it. Not to mention, if you change it, all the people who don't have the easy pet will screech. ModReach was the developer who designed the Kraken and intended it to do a lot more damage than it currently does. It was later discovered that because of the way the game engine is coded, the boss just doesn't work. RuneScape's engine is very old. I figure most of you know this. It runs on the same technology it did in 2007, and it's so old and messy that even its developers have called it spaghetti. Now, before ModReach was terminated from Jagex, he wanted to fix the Kraken, but was told nope, it's a feature now. The Kraken is just easy, and that's how it stayed. They just wouldn't let him fix it no matter how much he argued.
Kraken literally does no damage to you, and that's a bug. But it's not a bug that we knew about because it's an engine bug. And it turns out there are two parameters on the Kraken file itself which cancel each other out. And I'm being told, no, it's a feature now. It's like, well, no, it isn't. It's a bug, and we can fix it, and we know what's wrong with it. And I don't like the fact that my boss is doing no damage. No, you can't fix it. It's a feature.
Next stop, the Wilderness. The Wilderness bosses have been broken for years. The meta with them is literally to just safe spot them so you don't take any damage. Again, because of how RuneScape is coded, a lot of monsters can be safe spotted, which is where you stand somewhere where you can attack something and it can't attack you back. Oftentimes, Jagex patches safe spots whenever they're found. For example, Cerberus recently had one patched. A few months ago, they patched a Calphite Queen one, and so on. But the Wilderness bosses are ignored. The reason? They suck. These things are beyond tanky and deal ridiculous amounts of damage. Attempting to solo one of these things without a safe spot is a death wish, so Jagex has just never fixed them. There's talks of them being revamped so they can be fought normally, but that's been in discussion for years, and Jagex has so much else on their plate. They're already pretty behind on most of the updates that were supposed to come out last year, so I don't really see this changing anytime soon. Taibo Trio might be one of RuneScape's weirdest, most broken quests. In fact, it probably deserves its own video because of how little sense it actually makes. Along with the Taibo Trio quest came the release of Karambwans. These little octopus food squid thingies are one of RuneScape's most unique foods. Because of the way they were coded, they can be used to combo eat, meaning in the same amount of time it takes to eat a shark, you can eat a shark and a Karambwan. You probably understand the theme of this video by now, but that was a glitch. It wasn't intended to be like that, but the developers liked it so much they left it in. They actually liked it so much that they later did the same thing with Ceridome Brews and Guthix Rests. Not only can you combo eat with 2 pieces of food, you can actually do it up to 4 now. This isn't the only glitch Karambwans have though. For some reason, the Karambwan fishing spot is also bugged. You ever notice that the fishing spot never moves? It's always in the same spot. It was supposed to work like normal fishing spots and move up and down the coast. In fact, when the game servers are rebooted for an update, it still does this. Sometimes it'll even just disappear, you just can't find it. Eventually, after a few minutes, it gets stuck in its normal spot where it's left until the next update. The whole Hunter skill is basically broken. So many of the items you get from Hunter are pretty much useless. So let's say you go set a trap. In real life, you should run away from it and hide, maybe disguised while waiting for the animal to get trapped. This is how it's supposed to work in RuneScape. You can make hunter armor from kebits and larupias. There's also a check in the code for how far away from the trap you are. If you're too close to the trap, the chance of catching it is lower, and even more so if you're not wearing hunter armor. The problem is, that's all broken. None of it works, and even if it worked, the bonus from the hunter armor would outweigh the negatives of standing too close. Meaning you could stand as close as you want as long as you're wearing the hunter armor, so it's never been fixed. But because it was fixed in RuneScape 2, a lot of people still think that's how it works in Old School. In fact, even the person that sells you the Hunter Cape when you get 99 thinks that's still how it works. Even when I started Old School, the first thing I did when I started training Hunter was go to the Grand Exchange and buy one of these outfits. The Hunter Master brings up smoking and trapping as well. You can add bait to your traps or smoke them to increase your chance of catching animals, but each one only increases that chance by 3% and 2% respectively. So again, it's completely useless. This has been brought up to Jagex before, but they don't really see any reason to buff it, so it remains in the game basically unused. Tick manipulation has been part of the game for a while now. What is tick manipulation, you may ask? RuneScape runs off things called ticks, which are 0.6 seconds each. Everything you do in the game can be measured in ticks. It's essentially RuneScape's clock. So let's say during one tick, you click a piece of armor. The game won't actually equip it onto your character until the beginning of the next tick. Let's say you're fast and you can click 4 pieces of armor in one tick. Then, once the next tick starts, all 4 pieces of armor will equip. This is why while playing, you'll notice when you click something, there is sometimes a tiny delay before anything actually happens. This is where tick manipulation comes in. Essentially, it's the ability to use these ticks to your advantage to pull off some crazy techniques. I'm not going to explain how to do these methods because it's extremely complicated and I honestly don't really even know how to do most of them. But by manipulating ticks, you're able to achieve much higher XP rates from skilling than normal. For example, resetting a box trap while training Hunter usually takes around 7 ticks to pick it up and place it back down. To keep it simple, with proper timing and certain items, you're able to manipulate the game ticks to speed up the time it takes to reset a trap significantly. It's possible to save 3 ticks every single time, which in the long run gets you a lot more XP per hour. You might be thinking, this is bug abuse, how is this possibly allowed? It turns out that once tick manipulation was discovered, Jagex decided it would be difficult to police it and maybe even unfair to do so. So they're just accepting it as a game mechanic. Prayer flicking is another form of tick manipulation. It allows you to use prayers without ever losing a single prayer point if done correctly. Jagex actually designed old school's hardest piece of content, the Inferno, around prayer flicking. It's extremely difficult to get an Infernal cape without learning flicking. Some players think it's unfair that tick manipulation exists and want it removed. Others absolutely love it. Personally, I don't mind that it exists, but the only kind I use is prayer flicking. It's fairly easy to get down and personally doesn't hurt my wrist, whereas other forms of tick manipulation do. Some of these methods involve clicking 4, 5, even 6 times in one tick. That's up to 10 clicks per second. So no thank you, I like to keep my mouse working and I will stick to my AFK Hunter XP rates. Probably the most broken of them all is the high scores. Ever wonder why RuneScape's high scores are down literally all the time? They never work. I swear half the time I go to look up someone's stats, I have to try 6 or 7 times to get it to work. Or most of the time, it never does. Well, the problem with the high scores is when they added boss kill count to them. This is when they started consistently crashing because they're old. Until then, I don't think the high scores had been changed at all, and Jagex went, okay, let's just dump a truckload of data on top of it and change nothing else. The team got them to be stable-ish, but with how often the high scores get checked these days, it still causes them to crash a ton. I really don't remember as a kid using the high scores ever, except to look up my own account, but these days I see literally anyone doing the same activity as me, and I right-click look up so fast. Even if they're in a max cape, I still want to see what bosses they've been killing. Anyway, they've been crashing the last few weeks because with the release of Soul Wars, Zeal was also added to the high scores, which was another thing for this barely functioning old system to track. RuneScape has all sorts of broken stuff like that, like staking. For years, there were ways to actually rig the stake in your favor. You can learn all about that mess by watching the video on screen right now.